له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له واشهد ان لا اله الا الله واشهد ان سيدنا محمدا عبده ورسوله اما بعد قال الله عز وجل في كتابه الكريم اعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا ايها الذين امنوا اتقوا الله ولتنظر نفس ما قدمت لغد واتقوا الله ان الله خبير بما تعملون. All praises to Allah. Ikhlas is a concept in Islam, pretty popular, quite common. You may have heard it here and there. Essentially, what it directly translates to is purity, right? Another way they describe it is sincerity. And sincere in what? Sincere in your intentions, sincere in the way you talk, and sincere towards the fact that everything you do is for the sake of Allah. This is the highest level of ikhlas one can achieve. Is to make sure that everything you do is just for the pleasure of Allah. It doesn't matter how the people treat you or what benefits you may get from people or if you get nothing at all. You still do it because you know Allah is watching, you know there is one God, and that is Allah, and that He is in charge of everything. And we see this in Surah Ikhlas, in the first ayah, قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ. It says, say, O Prophet, He is Allah, one and indivisible. Now, in the whole surah, it goes along this concept of there's only one God, He's not in need of anyone, right? Right? But in this first ayah, the significance of this is, a lot of scholars they debate, well, what is the reason for this ayah having come down? Why? What was the circumstances surrounding it? One of the ideas that comes along is that the people were asking, well, who is Allah? Allah is one. Okay, well, what is Allah made of? This was a question people genuinely had at the time. Of what was He made of? And then this is an explanation of He's not made of anything that you would understand. He's not indivisible. He's not made of gold or silver or things like these materials you see on earth. Allah is the one who created these things. He cannot be made of such things. So this ties right back into a class of understanding the power of Allah and who Allah is, and that there's only one. And our actions should show this. And the way you commonly see ikhlas most tested on is when you are given power. And we see it in the Prophet Muhammad. What happened is during his time, this is before he came down to Mecca, there was a young man by the name of Safwan ibn Umayyah. Now Safwan had been opposing the Muslims. Later on he would become Muslim himself, but during his youth he spent his whole life opposing Islam, opposing the Prophet Muhammad. And the reason for this, well, his father had done it, so then he had continued it on, and they continued to oppose the Muslims for so long. So he had heard that the Prophet was coming down to Mecca, and he said, let me get out of here. He's not going to spare me. I've done so much against the Muslims, I've done so much against the Prophet, they're not going to spare me. I have to get out. So he ran, he fled. And he had his best friend, whose name was Umair bin Wahab. Now, Umair had become Muslim. He had accepted Islam and understood what it was to be a Muslim. So when the Prophet came to Mecca, he said, O Prophet, Ya Rasulullah, my friend Safwan, I understand his history. I understand there's been problems between him and the Muslims. But it's all because Safwan was in a bad scenario. Nobody really gave him a chance to be a good person or become a Muslim or give him that idea. I want you to give him that. And so the Prophet responded saying, okay, that's fine, I'm here. You can come talk to me. And Umair says, that's not good enough, right? Because of the history, it's going to be tough. He's not, I need you to guarantee his safety. Nobody's going to touch him, nobody's going to harm him. And then the Prophet he says, okay, no problem, without hesitation. And this shocked everybody around him. Even the companions of the Prophet couldn't believe what they had just heard. Because this is a man who for years had been opposing the Muslims. And now all of a sudden, we're going to grant him safety. We're going to make sure he's okay and nobody touches him. And on top of this, Umair says, well, sorry, but that's not good enough because he's not going to believe this. Just like I didn't believe it and everybody else didn't believe it. I need something to prove that this is a message from you. Right? This is time before cell phones, before calling and all these videos. So you would give your personal item. So the Prophet took off his turban, handed it to Umair, the best friend of Safwan, and said, take this with you because nobody's going to touch him. The Muslims just conquered Mecca. This is the height of the power. Who's going to dare put their hand on the head of the Prophet? So then Umair goes. He grabs Safwan before he's able to leave and he says, Safwan, the Prophet said he'll protect you. And then Safwan says, you're lying. You're a Muslim now, you just want to catch me, you want to punish me for what I've done all these years. And so Umair says, no, here's his turban. And Safwan saw it, he said, okay. That he was in shock. He couldn't believe it, so he said, this must be true. Comes back to Mecca. He then talks to the Prophet. Mind you, the Prophet gets nothing from Safwan. This is an enemy. This is a man who has tormented him and his people for so many years, kept them out of Mecca. Right? You get rid of an enemy, you're like, fine, good. Now we're in control. Let him show power. This is not how the Prophet thought. Right? He knew Allah was watching. He believed in Ikhlas. Everything was for Allah. And he always gave benefit to people. So he talks to Safwan. He explains to his son, give him da'wah. And Safwan says, you know what? I'm still not ready. Even after all that's happened, I'm still not ready to convert. He says, okay. The Prophet asks him, how much time do you need? Safwan then says, I need about 2 months. Prophet says, take 4 months. It's okay. Stay here, stay in Mecca, stay with your family, your friends, do business, whatever you want. Nothing will happen to you, you're fine. I'll give you 4 months. So some time passes, and now the Muslims are coming towards a battle, and they need weapons and armor and things. Safwan is known to have weapons and armor and such, and he's a collector, he enjoys these things, right? So Muslims say, hey, we can ask Safwan for his items because we are under-equipped, right? Our military needs more power in this sense. So they go to Safwan. And Safwan sees the Prophet, and they ask for his sword and shields and armor. And Safwan responds, he points at the Prophet, and he says to him, "Ghasbun ya Muhammad? Like, are you going to take my stuff from me, Muhammad? Like, just come in here, barge in, and just take it all from me? Right? Because this is what was common back then. The leaders would come, you don't ask for things, you come and take. And the Prophet told him, no, that's not what we're here. We want to borrow your things. We want to borrow the armor, we want to borrow the sword, the shield, and we will return everything to you. And should anything be destroyed, misplaced, we'll repay you however you see fit." So then Safwan agrees. He gives him what he asks for. The battle happens. The Prophet says, take a tally of all of Safwan's goods that he's given us, and let me know what's happened. Turns out 2 swords are missing, 2 shields were destroyed or a bit messed up. And so they go back to Safwan, the enemy of Islam, the man who's been there for 4 months, the man who's still under protection. And the Prophet tells him, Safwan, 2 swords are missing, your shield's been destroyed. How would you like us? What do we owe you? How can we repay this debt to you? And then in that moment, Safwan says, La ya Rasulullah, no, O Prophet of Allah. You don't owe me anything. And the power in this is, initially he said, Muhammad, meaning he didn't believe. In that moment, Safwan became Muslim because he saw the ikhlas, he saw the generosity and the kindness from the Prophet Muhammad. The man he had tortured for so many years, the people he had tortured for so many years, he kept them at Mecca. They had treaties with him, and he had broken the treaties because he despised the Muslims at that time so much. And even he caved because he saw the generosity. And what did the Prophet gain out of all this? Nothing really. He didn't need Safwan. He could have taken his weapons and armor and just used it. He was justified. He is the Prophet of Allah. He is part of the Muslims. They have conquered. Conquerors get to do what they want. But the Prophet knew that there was a bigger picture at hand. He knew that you have to treat people with kindness and respect. The ikhlas, Allah is watching. Today you've been given power. Tomorrow you may not have that same blessing. Allah may very well take that power from you. Give it to the non-Muslims or give it to Muslims. And so, through this kindness, you saw Safwan become a Muslim. And it's not just the Prophet ﷺ. You also see this in Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. What did he do? This is the man, Imam Ali radiallahu anhu. He said, Abu Bakr is the first to all good deeds. And then what did Umar say? Umar radiallahu anhu, about Abu Bakr, he said, "Oh Abu Bakr, you have exhausted your successors." This is after Umar found out that Abu Bakr, he became Khalifa, and after Fajr, he would go missing till sunrise. Nobody really knew where he went, but he went in the opposite direction of his home. So clearly he didn't go home. And so Umar followed him, saw him go into the house, leave the house at sunrise. So then Umar went in the house, like, what is going on here? And he found a blind woman with many young children around her. We don't know how they're young children, but there were. And so he asked the blind woman, "Who came to see you?" She's like, "I don't know." "Well, what did he do?" And she said, "Well, that man who comes in every day, he comes in every morning and leaves. When he comes, he washes the house, washes the clothes, grinds the wheat, makes the bread, and makes us breakfast, and then he leaves." And all this time, this woman had no clue that this is Amir al-Mu'mineen. This is arguably the most powerful man in history at the time. who comes in and does all these tasks. He could have assigned anybody to have done these things. But he had ikhlas. He knew Allah was watching. He knew he was not greater than this task he's been doing. He knew that this woman needed help, and it doesn't matter how big he became, that people needed help, and it was his responsibility to be there too if he could be there. And this is why Umar said, you have surpassed all your successors. How could people compete with a man of this stature like Abu Bakr, right? And Imam al-Muzani, he says Abu Bakr's love wasn't based on his actions. It wasn't all these amazing deeds you might hear him do, right? I knew it was just one deed, we talked about that. Nobody at the time knew. It wasn't until Umar stalked him, hid in secret, and figured out all these things, right? Otherwise, Abu Bakr had not told a soul. This is the class. He was doing it for Allah, not for the people, not for people to say, oh, look at our Khalifa, look at how amazing he is. This was not the reason. And so, Imam al-Muzani, he says that it wasn't his actions that made him so special, though it may be hard to believe. What really made him special is that Abu Bakr had something secret hidden in his heart. And that something is what drew him to Allah, to reminding himself every day that Allah is one. I'm here to please Allah, and I need to do everything in my power to please Allah. And this is a class, this is the highest level of class we as Muslims can achieve, is this understanding that there is only Allah. Allah is one. We don't affiliate partners with Him. We don't affiliate anything with Him, because He is most deserving. And He's blessed us with so much, and you don't know how things may go. And what's the hadith? It's إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّةِ وَإِنَّمَا لِكُلِّ امْرِئٍ مَّا نَوَىٰ. The reward of deeds depends upon the intentions, and every person will get the reward according to what he has intended. Many of us have heard this hadith before, and it keeps coming up because it is a common theme. When you intend to seek the pleasure of people, money, power, whatever you think you may be good at getting out of those good deeds, that's the reward you end up getting. And it weakens your ikhlas. True ikhlas is it doesn't matter who benefits you. Safwan never benefited the Prophet. Abu Bakr never benefited from this blind woman. They had nothing to offer, nothing to give. Yet they knew the bigger picture. They knew what was more important was pleasing Allah, was to help the people in need. Because they knew that someday you will come before Allah and you will have to answer for your deeds. And so we ask Allah to purify our intentions. Astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah, wa lakum innahu ghafurur rahim.